All right, very nice. So, what have you been up to, young man?
Well, I was on a men's group earlier this morning and a posting
Oh,
party and a social media automation with AI workshop. And
all
eh,
yeah. I swear to God, how much cocaine do you guys snort over there? Jesus Christ!
uh,
I don't know how you. I don't know how any of you do what you do. It's just astounding to me. I mean, it's so you're working. I don't know. You somehow have made each day worth about 47 hours, and you work all 47 hours. Anyway, folks, let me do the sign in here somewhere. I rarely even do it anymore, but welcome to Mark Isaac Potter Presents. We're visiting today with the wonderful Kurt Roskoff, who I have compared to everyone famous and lovely in this known universe, certainly. He's quite an amazing young man and does a lot for the world, does a lot for our veterans, and uh, yeah, he's just an overall nice guy, in my opinion. I mean, I could be wrong. Probably am wrong, Probably a it's probably an unmitigated bastard, but you know, anyway. So I know folks, we have very little time because Mr. Roscoff has a meeting with the Pope here in a few minutes, so he needs to leave quickly. Uh, maybe I should start calling you Sir Roscoff. What do you want to share with us today, Dr. Roscoff?
well, let's go in and build off of you talk about famous people in this known universe. Let's talk about Martin Luther King Jr. and what he has provided in his legacy to disability advocates. When I
Hmm.
talk about the community of people with disabilities, I make sure we're including, all of the major factions of the disability community, people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, the deaf community, blind community, people with physical health diagnosis, those living in chronic
Hmm.
pain, and everyone with goals of substance use reduction, which you were kind of talking into that space when I came in here, Mark. But
Yeah, I think I literally counted the other day 11 disabilities.
okay.
I'm gonna I'm gonna do a show about it, obviously, because I do a show about everything. But uh, I've got I've got quite a few, and I don't think the point of this video necessarily is for me to talk about all my disabilities. But what are your thoughts about the panoply of disabilities in the world and how I don't think people with disabilities are treated? They're certainly not treated in an equal way to the point where people, people don't notice or anything. And we don't get the same opportunities, I don't think either. So, what are your thoughts about all that stuff?
Well, I was talking to with a few gentlemen last week, but the one gentleman, he is a gentleman who identifies with a disability. And, meeting with him, he talked about how he's doing some things with various groups and organizations, and he does things in a mantra that the lion's share what he does has nothing to do with his disability. And at the same time, it's helping him build this life functionally successful, in spite of his disability, and to find those ideal things to functionally, fill, that interruption. I guess I'll call it that. When you have a disability, because I would pose that a lot of what people with disabilities feel is really what I might say is the disability of everyone else. Because that's what I learned a dozen years ago. It was my lack of understanding universal design. It was my hopping into a meeting and learning about global public inclusive infrastructure, and
Okay.
I'm opening up my time to learn about more assistive technology and adaptive
Yeah.
equipment. That there's so much that people that don't identify with the disability can, grow their life through, and we can build this world, like back to Martin Luther King Jr., how he talked primarily from the racial perspective about how all of the races can come together, and children of all races, are playing together. We can think of that in terms of the functional space, with any conversation about disability. And, the gentleman last week said something I agree to. It's been, something that's been declared, many times, in conversations I've been in the last 10 years, is that really everyone has a disability. There's a
Okay.
sliding scale of disabilities, and we can be critical about any individual and start to mount up for any person how we could call that a disability. Now, at the
Yeah.
same time, disability advocates are concerned that we don't muddy the waters of disability, because financially speaking, in terms of agency funding and so forth, we do
Yeah.
need a clear prescription in terms of who qualifies for disability services. So
Well,
that's
yeah, and
really where we
yeah.
get black and white, who's in,
Well,
who's
it's kind
out
of like the
because of money.
loss of, to me, it's kind of like the loss of affirmative action, the loss of
Well, the
funding
idea
for
is
disability
there
programs.
is a loss of affirmative action, but we don't have to say that affirmative action is lost, because we can appeal to the masses that in face spaces, in volunteer organizations, in educational practices, in business, in all the fun things we do in life, like creating podcasts. We
Mm.
can have affirmative action in all of the things we do. It doesn't have to be in those very specific cases where maybe politically we're advocating for affirmative action, or we're looking for government to practice affirmative action, or have it
Well,
be a ruling thing in,
mm,
uniform commercial code, whatever it may be. We may want it
mm,
in all those specific cases, but if it's not there, there's a lot of things we do in our waking moments. And I take the conversation to the point where I want to see it grow so much that people are dreaming in this way. Because I think that's so powerful to ask ourselves that when we dream, do our dreams include, functionally all people?
yeah.
Are we doing things
Okay.
where, someone who's deaf or hard of hearing can participate? Are we doing things where
Right.
wheelchair users can participate?
Well, and when you say hard of hearing, I think of that actress, Mary Maitland, who really has done a lot over the last probably 30 years. She came into film at a time when it was unthinkable to have someone who was couldn't speak or couldn't hear or something on screen, and she's become a staple, at least to the point where when people see her on screen, they don't flinch anymore like they used to, you know, because she's been in the acting space for so many decades now. I'd like to see that for the rest of us. I mean,
Yeah,
so
so my message is, when I tried to navigate my own transformation into this space, I realized it's like when I drive in my car, and I look over at the rearview mirror and it says, objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. And
mm,
that's really how I thought of the disability community, because when we let segregation live on to be alive and well, that's what happens. It's segregation. The lives of people with disabilities are over there and we're over here, but
Mhm.
yet the disability community remains 1 in 4 people of our population. So,
Yep.
like when you say affirmative action or integration, you
Yeah.
know, that's the way it should look. We should look at our faith spaces, our volunteer events and activities, our personal professional development, what goes on at libraries, the whole thing, what goes in all government activities and employment, what goes on in the business community, and all the fun things we can do in life. It should be truly that we're confident 1 in 4 people participating and that is provided to and who's leading it. We have to look at people with disabilities are ready to be leaders. They're not always
Yeah.
looking to be the objects of your charity. There's ADAPT that talks about piss on pity. They have
Okay.
t-shirts that say that on
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
So this empowerment, and that's where I come in with the preachings and the narrative of Martin Luther King Jr. If we take all of Martin Luther King Jr.'s narrative to the world, and now we think of disability advocacy, and disability advocates taught me this. I didn't come up with this. I just said that is so true. You can, and MLK, truly, had this as part of his dream. He just was surrounded by people, and our nation just really needed him to get the racial issue on a
Yeah.
major shift. So he
Yeah.
just fell into that space to shift the racial
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
But for sure, people with disabilities were right there in his heart all along as well.
Well, and he did lots of other things too. I mean, he was dabbling into the economics of a middle class. And well, that's well put. I feel better now than I did before. Cheese whiz. I mean, yeah. So, yeah, very nice. I've tried to be a poster boy lately for some disabilities, the ones that are more in the closet. Like we did a show. Well, me and I often interview Gemini to do shows because Gemini is readily available to me. So I interview her about things. So we interviewed about something called I can't remember the exact name, but it's a 4 or 5 word name, like recurrent behavior syndrome or something. And it's six disorders that have to do with things like picking scabs, pulling your hair, picking your nose, all those things. And they're very, and I thought, my life needs to be sacrificed for the common good as far as I'm concerned. So I noticed, I mean, I've been picking my nose all my life, picking scabs all my life. And one day on camera, I picked my nose and I thought, well, I won't play that, or I'll edit that out. And then of course I said, why do that? Just leave it in there. So we left it in. And then I'm doing shows all day like you guys. So I got with Gemini in about a half an hour and I said, let's do a show on this. And of course she knows the real name of it and what the 6 disorders are, and the fact that Joan of Arc was the first one to pick her nose in public and all that. So I brought all that into my group. So that gave me, I think I have 2 of the 6, and then I have 5 or 6 mental illnesses and 3 or 4 physical disabilities and a learning disability and dementia and comes up. Yeah. So yeah, but I still get by. I'm in a lot of pain, and I really want to. One of the things that's like on the top of my list now, because pain seems to drive decision making when it's around. Like if you just got shot, you're not thinking about the lollipop you had last week. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So
Mhm.
I'm in constant pain now, so I'm gonna, of course, try to start getting with chronic pain group support groups and interviewing people with chronic pain and like that. See what I can learn. I think those things psychologically alleviate some of the pain because you probably know lots of people with constant pain or chronic pain, so it's really kind of a. I mean, they're all upsetting, things, but chronic pain has its own thing. So, and I hear that you signed with McDonald's to be the next Ronald McDonald. That's kind of sweet.
Yeah.
Are you going to give any of that money to your 200,000 501c3s?
Oh, absolutely. Project Die Hard and Spirit of the Game Foundation, helpapedia.org. Oh yeah, we're
when
spreading
he
the
when
wealth.
he when Mr. Roscoff first learned about the phrase 501c3, he thought that it meant he had to start 501,000 nonprofits. And he's so efficient that he had to call the government in a week and say, can I be a 702 C3 because I've now created 702,000 nonprofits. They literally up there have a network of networks. So the next presidential candidate is going to go to Kurt and say, well, you're going to elect me or not? And he's going to go, I don't know. If you were only a little shorter, maybe, but
There you go.
want to mention your next fundraiser so we can get on top of that. It's every 3 months. You guys do that Atlanta, Toronto, LA thing.
Yeah, it will be an ongoing telethon initiative. We actually have Stu Newmeyer with the Stu and Lori Variety Hour, the Stu and Lori Variety Hour.com. They're doing a car giveaway, and we're doing a Monday Labor Day telethon.
Are you
So,
really?
so in true Jerry Lewis fashion.
That's coming up fast. Jesus Christ. Wow. Okay. That's very good. I was kind of surprised that you guys decided, and folks, you guys know that I tease constantly. It's not going to stop, no matter how much heroin you feed me. But you're welcome to try because uh, surprised that you guys decided to buy the island of Mozambique. It just seems too small for what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
So,
got
so
to be a.
Mark, I'm gonna have to make my exit here. I got to
All right.
transition to
Give
my
us a give
Project
us
Die Hard
your
meeting.
okay. Give us your contact information. Tell us again about the next telethon, and then blitz out of here.
Okay, my telephone number, you can call and text me 262-372-1754. My email address, Kurt, Kurt, at spiritofthegame.org. And I do want to mention my shirt tail relative, Jory Prajinski. He is a gentleman living in chronic pain as well, and he heads up your oasis for those living their journey through chronic pain. Hope Instilled .org. Check it out, Mark, and everybody out there, hopeandstill.org. And the telethon again is through the Stu and Lori Variety Hour.com. There's a car giveaway. Do your acts of kindness. You qualify for the drawing of the car. And then we have our Jerry Lewis style telethon with Stu and Lori and the crew on
All right.
Monday,
All right.
Labor Day.
Can you do every Monday morning at 9? Do you think? Do like a little blitz show like this?
Yeah, yeah, we can
All
come
right.
back
Good.
every week. Yeah.
All right. And while you're sleeping tonight, remember that next time you do a show with me, give all the stuff much slower and repeat it. I know you got to go now, but slower and repeat it. All right, we're out of here, ladies and gentlemen. This has been me and him, and you know what? So we love you. Bye bye bye. All right.